Good morning, church. How are we doing this morning at all our campuses and online? Good to see y'all. I'm Jason Russ. I'm the campus pastor for Lorain, and it's been a little while since I've been here to Elyria. It's good to see all your faces. And those up in the balcony, hey, balcony, how are we doing up there? Woohoo! Yeah. All right, this morning, I would like to start you with a quiz. Anybody up for a quiz this morning? You're like, well, you haven't taught us anything yet. Hang on, okay? Sometimes you start with a quiz just to see what's there, all right? So that's what I'm checking on right now. See if you're awake, see if you're with me. This quiz is derived from something that's maybe you've seen in the food industry. Maybe if you watch food shows like I do. I love watching other people cook food. It makes me hungry, and then I go eat, and that's just how it works in my house. But I love watching these shows, and you hear deconstruction thrown around a bit. Anybody heard of that, food deconstruction? Well, the idea behind it, very good. The idea behind it is that you take a dish and you pull it apart into its pieces and present it in a beautiful way so that you kind of appreciate it all over again for what it is. And you kind of put it together yourself as you eat it. It actually came from the term itself, deconstruction, came from a philosopher, a French philosopher named Jacques Derrida. And so we're gonna throw this out to you as they kind of morphed it into food. And we're going to see if these dishes I show you, all of which you should know and maybe have eaten many times, if you can identify what they are by the pieces being pulled apart in front of you. You ready? Here's the first one. The first one is right here. What do you think it is? Just shout out, every campus. What do you think it is? Meatballs? Close. You're getting closer. It's not just meatballs. What else? What dish is it? Ravioli? No. Meatloaf. Very good. Sammy got it. Meatloaf. You see, the ketchup gives it away. That's the ketchup stripe, right? Okay. Next one. Try this one. Come on, shout it out. Steak and potatoes? Nope. That's actually what it is, right? But that's not the dish. Pot roast. Very good, Megan. Megan got that. Pot roast. Usually they're floating around in some kind of a soup, right? In your pot, in your crock pot. But that's pot roast. Very good. Anybody getting hungry? How about this one? Which one? Chicken pot pie, front row. You got that. All right. Look at that little pie-shaped crust. See, that's the key. So you get an idea. Now we're going to do one dessert. Anybody dying right now for lunch? I know this is closer to the noon hour than the last service, but how about this one? Dessert. Yep, strawberry cheesecake. Very good. That was a pretty easy one. All right. Some of you got that. Now, what's interesting when you actually read, Derrida, the philosopher, basically applied deconstructionism to literature and also to politics. He talked about all kinds of different topics and deconstructed them, pulled them apart piece by piece. And what he said, and people took this and used it for food, but what he said about deconstruction is that many people have a very negative view of it, that it's something negative, it's a negative process. But what he was trying to tell people was that, no, he said, I never proceed in deconstruction without love. And I think that's what you see in food particularly, is that people, we grow up in certain households, there's certain meals, like, for example, meatloaf you eat all the time, right? And then you get so used to it, you're kind of sick of it. But then to have someone pull it apart piece by piece, present it, and then you combine it and eat it, gives you a brand new appreciation for that. And today is no different. Where we find ourselves in the Word of God, which is food for us, right? The Word of God, we're opening up today to a very, very familiar dish, and that is Ephesians 2:8-9. As you take a look at this verse, let's stand together at all campuses to honor God's Word. Let's stand together, and we're going to read this together out loud, all of us. Some of us don't even need this, right? Because we know it so well. But let's read it together. Ephesians 2:8-9. Ready? For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. Great job. You may be seated. Now, our first step in taking something like these two verses, I think next to John 3:16, this has got to be one of the top that everybody knows in the faith. But as we step towards deconstructing what this all is about, I think it helps us to go to another version, the New Living, and I love how it puts this passage. Just listen now. God saved you by his grace when you believed. And you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. Now, the first thing I want you to see is that we are looking at salvation as a centerpiece of this verse. And at the top of your little recipe card that you have in your bulletin, as you turn your bulletin sideways, everything's going to be kind of changed a little bit to challenge you and to get you thinking differently. Turn it sideways, and it's actually, we're going to deconstruct salvation for you today. Although in your bulletin it says salivation. I do apologize for that. I come to you today in weakness, and I missed that in my edits. And it's also ingredients, not ingredients, all right? Although you may feel that's an egregious sin that I have misspells. But I come to you in weakness, and I need grace today. So, salvation, not salivation, is at the centerpiece of our talk today. Deconstructing salvation. I think if there's one way you can look at Ephesians 2:8-9 is that Paul is trying, after these 7 verses prior, to get us to a place where we understand what salvation's all about. And so that's where we come from. And the very first ingredient you're going to write down on your recipe card is the first word, God. That's the first thing on the plate when Paul is talking about salvation, is the very first ingredient must and always will be God. So as you write that down and think about it, what does that mean for us as we think about our salvation? You know, this being the centerpiece of our thought, and as we're taking apart salvation piece by piece, God is the creator of the dish. He is the one, the owner and operator of the entire institution. He's the one that made it. He's the one that presents salvation to us. And it's Him alone that gives us what we need most. And I say that because when you look at saved and salvation, the Greek word behind that is the word that speaks of the fact that we are in the line of an imminent and direct threat, and we need to be pulled away. Almost as if you're sitting down here on the railroad tracks, okay, and your car has died, and there is a train coming, which happens way too often, if you ask me. And you're sitting there, and you are strapped in. You can't get your strap off, and there is a train coming, and it's coming fast. And you can do nothing to get out of that seat. You're beeping, you're yelling, you're calling 911, and time is running out. That is every one of us. We are in the exact line of a direct threat. And that is what God has saved us from, is being destroyed. And that, you know, my question for you is, do you feel yourself in that position? Have you ever understood yourself to be in line of a direct threat, needing to be saved? You know, and here's the interesting thing for us. When we come to the table, God's offering this plate, and we come completely empty in our stomachs. We come totally unable to say, you know, I've come prepared. You know, my stomach is empty. Also, my pockets are empty. I can offer you nothing for what you're giving me, Lord, but here I am, and I'm needing to be saved. Do you feel an ache in your stomach spiritually for what God has for you today? You know, our lives are at stake. And so the problem with us, though, as human beings, is that we have lots of different meals we feed from that are not the one that God's offering us. We have lots of places we go to feed what is going on inside of us. Unfortunately, what happens, though, is that we find ourselves hungry again. Unfortunately, what happens also is that we find ourselves feeling funky after we've eaten that other meal from that other place because it's actually malnourishing us. It's not feeding us what we need. As a matter of fact, the other thing that's true is that there's some meals we eat, and they're actually slowly poisoning us and actually bringing the day of our death closer. And you start asking yourself, what is going on? Where am I feeding from that's causing me to come to this table completely empty, starving, and I'm dying? And God's saying, I'm trying to save you from a direct threat. And that is, you're dying, and you're going to die. You know, this is a theme in the Bible. If you don't know your Old Testament, you might miss this, and I want to help you in that and get you fired up to learn what God has in His whole entire Word. But right in the beginning of the book, the whole entire Bible, Genesis, you see God creating, and this week we were memorizing that God created them male and female. In the image of God, He created them. And here's Adam, and God says to Adam, here's my instruction for you, brother. I've given you this whole beautiful garden. Here's what I want for you. You're free to eat from any tree, thousands of trees. We don't know how many there were, but there had to be a lot of them. You must not eat, though, from this one tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because if you eat from it, you will surely die. You can't blame God. You can't say that God is ever unclear. He's very clear. From the beginning, he says, don't touch that one tree, because if you do, you're going to die. And it's not just physical, it's complete emotional, spiritual, physical. Every way a person can die, you'll die. Don't do it. Because I'm giving you the option and the choice because I want you to love me from your heart, from your will. You see? That's a gift. And God gives that to man. And of course, we know the story. He goes away. Time goes on. He sins and his wife, and they're evicted from the garden, and they go their way. But God does not leave them themselves. He pursues them. There's a relationship you see, and then eventually God, as he continues to relate to man, picks one man and says, I'm going to make a nation out of you to do what I was intending to do through Adam and Eve, and that is to bless the world through you and to show my glory and my love and to be a display case of my grace to the world. So you will be Israel. And so time goes on, and Israel, we know the story. They choose the same path as Adam and Eve, and God sends prophets to say things like this. Jeremiah says, my people, he's speaking for God, have committed two sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. God's saying to Israel, you're at the point where you're thirsty as can be, but I'm the one that has living water. It never ends. Don't dig your own cisterns. And then another prophet, Ezekiel, puts it this way, Son of man, God says to him, say to the Israelites, this is what you are saying. Our offenses and our sins weigh us down, and we're wasting away because of them. How then can we live? You can feel the malnourishment. You can feel the wasting. They're not getting what they need, and yet they're trying to get it from everywhere they can but God. And then God says, turn from your evil ways. Turn. Why will you die, people of Israel? Man, it's right there. God's speaking to Israel. I don't want you to die. Come back to me. Come feed on me. I have what you need. Stop going everywhere else but me. And then time goes on, and you see that this man, Jesus, comes on the scene, and there's his cousin John saying, behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. And one day Jesus stands up in front of everybody in John chapter 6 and says, I am, which is deity. I am is the name of God in the Old Testament. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. And whoever believes in me, will never be thirsty. That's the spring of living water. That's the bread of life. I mean, this is huge. This is what Jesus was coming on the scene to do, was to answer that hunger and that ache and that thirst that had existed from the moment that Adam and Eve chose to touch that one tree. And it's continued ever since. And we are the recipients of that continuance. We are doing the same thing. We are going after everything else but him. And that's why ingredient number one must be God. He is the initiator. He's the one that has continued to come after us in his grace. In his grace. And that's the second ingredient on the plate. God is the first ingredient. The second ingredient is grace. You see it through the Old Testament as God comes after his people and shows his grace to those people. You see it in Romans chapter 5:8, one of my favorite verses, is that this is how God demonstrated his love for us. Even in this, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He shows his grace to us over and over and over again. This is the second thing on the plate of salvation I want you to see as we pull it apart. And the properties of grace, as we talk about that, we saw it in the passage in verse 4. The properties of grace are unstoppable love, and then abounding mercy also in verse 4, and then unending kindness in verse 7. Those are, if you want 3 different views of grace, that's it. Unstoppable love, abounding mercy, unending kindness. And we see this in the way that Jesus performed his ministry, the way he went about what he did. And you might say to yourself, well, yeah, the way that Jesus went about performing his ministry and showing grace was he healed lots of people, people that couldn't walk, that couldn't see, couldn't hear. Yeah, you might say that, but I want to go and point out something else to you that's often overlooked. And that is Matthew chapter 9, for example, where a paralyzed man is brought in front of Jesus. And Jesus looks that man in the eyes and sees what's going on inside his heart. And he says to that man, your sins are forgiven. What? He didn't come to get his sins forgiven. He came to get his legs taken care of. He says, first, your sins are forgiven. And then he does heal him. of his sickness. Mark chapter 2, Luke chapter 5, same story, two different angles. Paralyzed man again. His friends can't get in the house. They pull away the roof. They lower him down. You know the story, right? And Jesus, it says, Jesus looked at them, all of them, saw their faith, and turned to the man and said, your sins are forgiven. Again, it's like, isn't it obvious that's not what we came for? We came for the legs, right? But no, Jesus understands that more important than the physical healing, more important than healing the physical ailments of your life, more important than fixing the bank account problems that you got, more important than dealing with healing the marriage that you got going, more important than any problem that you may face in this world that Jesus could heal, the most important thing that he wants to address is the sin problem in you. It is the most direct threat that is prevalent in our hearts, and he wants to heal that first. So let him do it. Go to him for what's important the most, and that is the fact that our souls are what's most important to him. It's incredible what he does. Luke chapter 7, another example, is a woman that comes to him, and she is lovingly anointing him, kissing his feet, washing his feet with her tears. It's an incredible scene while the person in the house who is the owner is very much looking down on Jesus and her. He's a religious man. And Jesus is speaking to this man as he says this, therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven as her great love has shown. But whoever's been forgiven little loves little. And then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. He said to the woman then, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Now, I think that is such a beautiful picture of how we can come and see that Jesus sees the greatest need we have. He forgives this woman in front of everybody. And he even says, another spot, that what this woman's done for me will be told wherever the gospel is preached. And here we are still talking about that woman to this day. That is an incredible picture of grace, where Jesus forgave her just boldly in front of everybody for her sins. And then I would like to show you the last picture of costly grace on display that I think is the best picture, which is Jesus on the cross. Father, forgive them, he said, for they do not know what they're doing. All the way to the cross, Jesus was forgiving sins. All the way to his last breaths, he was forgiving. Not only the people that put him there, but even the man on the side who was one of the criminals who deserved to be there, looked to him, and Jesus said, today, I'll see you in paradise. Forgiving to his last breath. That is our God. That is grace. And just to illustrate how that can be received by somebody, I want to share a poem with you entitled God's Grace from a very good friend of mine, Mary Houston. Some of you know the poet in our midst, in our church, Mary. She's in her mid-80s, and she's still getting poems from the Lord and writing them down. And I want to share her poem, God's Grace. Forever, forever, how grateful I am for what I once was to what I now am. I owe it to the Lamb. Thank you, Jesus. Forever, I'm grateful. His life's blood for me. He gave on the cross so from sin I'd be free. Praise be to the Lamb of Calvary forever, every day. As I seek to grow in his love every day, I am more grateful for the gift of his Son, mercy, grace, love, freely given. There's all those elements of grace. And then, I'll never be worthy, but I'm striving to be an example of his love that he pours out on me. Rejoicing in his glory. Forever I'll be singing praises to my Jesus for eternity, excited to walk with him day by day. Glory, glory to see his face forever. How awesome is that we were just singing that at every campus all together right before the sermon. That very thought. Praise God. That is a poem that should hopefully connect with you inwardly so that you feel some kind of a groan. Every one of us should feel that. That's an example of feeling it down to your gut. And that's our third element I want to bring out in this plate of salvation that we're deconstructing. We see gut is number 3. And that's when the words, God save you by his grace when you believed. Now, why do I say gut? It's not just because I like the analogy of food. It's because in the first century, the seat of the emotions was not the heart, as we often say today, but it was actually the gut. It was actually the bowels specifically. And that's obvious because if you've ever been through some really intense moments in life, even if it's just something as simple as you're hungry and you go to the grocery store. Big mistake, right? What always happens? You walk out over $100 plus and you bought a bunch of stuff you don't need just because you're hungry, you know? And it doesn't even work. I mean, try it sometime, but even if you take the little basket in, you'll find yourself like one of my friends, putting the basket down at the register, running to get more stuff, and then bringing it back to add to that. Don't do it. Don't go hungry. But other places that maybe you've seen that gut reaction to trials is maybe moments when you've been sitting at the hospital with a loved one and you don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe that moment. Maybe for you it's a moment when you get the worst news ever. All's lost. Money's gone. You got nothing left. You know, for me, I see it in a park. This is a park in Scottsdale in the heart of the downtown area. I lived out there for 12 years, and just a few years into living there, my life was deconstructing, and my marriage was going downhill. And I didn't know what to do with myself. The feelings of rejection, the feelings of frustration, and I was in a bad way. And while most people walk around this park and they are happy looking at the flowers and the fountains, you might find me in this 3-month period of my life where I had time to myself in a corner on my knees praying and crying. But I'll tell you something. It was in those moments of deep anguish when I was going through things that I couldn't even believe I made it through, when I literally wanted to die at moments, that the Lord got a hold of me and said, rejection, let's talk about rejection, Jason. Where am I at in your life right now? How have you replaced me? What's going on right now? And he lovingly does this work of deconstruction in my life to start to expose me for who I am and then shine his grace on me. Wow. I'll never forget some of the things that God said to me and what happened in those times. I mean, I walk to this place. I'll go there when I go on vacation to see my kids, and I'll cry almost every time I think about this place because of what God did in me. And sometimes, and that's what I'm calling out of you. Have you ever had that gut reaction, that moment in your life where you know what you know inside? God's calling you to that spot. But here's some things you need to understand. This is where I skip to the instructions, okay, on your recipe card. Hear out these instructions. This is very important. First of all, the thing that Paul tells us is that there are no additions. No additions. You cannot add anything to the plate that God offers you when he talks about salvation. You cannot add anything to it. He says in this line here is that you can't take credit for this. It's not in you. It's not as a result of you. You see? And the idea in the Greek there is that what's the point of origin of this plate of salvation? Is the point of origin you, or is it God? As we already established, it's him. But the funny thing about the way we work as humans is we like to insert ourselves and say, no, it comes from me. God's story is very clear. God's the one that said to Adam's wife, Eve, that her offspring would be the one to crush the head of the serpent. God's the one that said to Abraham that your seed, your descendant will bless all the nations. Speaking of Jesus, God was the one that said to David that it's one of your descendants that will be sitting on the throne forever. That is Christ. God has said over and over again that he's the one. He's the one that's made it happen, and we will not have any rivals. There will be no additions to this. We can't take credit. Funny thing is, we try to add something to the plate, don't we? We try to throw something on the plate of salvation and say we've got something to do with it, but God says, you got nothing in your pockets, remember? All right? You got nothing. You can't add to it. Empty stomach, empty pockets. Here's the second instruction. Kind of similar, no substitutes. No additions, no substitutes. We got to get this right. It's not a reward, Paul says, for the good things that we've done. We can't look at this as some kind of a reward that we deserve. God doesn't need that, or he has not done that for us. He's the one that deserves the award, not us. But yet we want to look at our salvation as something that we have earned. And I think this is something that's particularly tempting when we are in the church a while and we've done enough down the road, and I've been a believer for so long, and I've been a member of this church for so long, and we get this pride that wells up in us. But look at what Paul says. This is really good. Romans 11:6, he says, if by grace, when we're talking about being chosen by grace, if by grace, then it cannot be based on works. If it were, grace would no longer be grace. Anytime we try to add something to it, anytime we try to substitute what God's done with what we've done, grace is no longer grace. So be warned. There are no substitutes, nothing that we can add. And what do we deserve? We deserve judgment. We heard about this a couple weeks ago pretty heavily. We deserve judgment, condemnation. We deserve wrath. That's what we deserve. But grace is getting what we don't deserve. And so we've got to keep grace pure. We can't add to it. Paul also says to the Corinthian believers, because they were arguing about who their teacher was and who was a better teacher and that kind of thing. And he says this, as we talk about boasting, for who makes you different from anyone else? What do you have that you did not receive? And if you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? You see, this thing about boasting, we tend to do that, don't we? Especially as Americans. We're known around the world as being a very prideful and boastful nation, and it gets the best of us often. And Paul is warning us, saying, what in the world, believer, do you have that you have not received? There is nothing that you can claim that you've earned. Because remember, you came to the table with nothing. And God was there with the one thing you need the most. How now, 20, 30, 40 years later, could you ever say you have anything to offer? We've got to remember that we come with nothing. And we've received it all from him. I think we see this very clear as we think about the fact that even Satan is so self-deceived that he believes that what he has comes from him. You see it in the third temptation of Jesus. As Jesus is been fasting for 40 days, Satan comes to him, and the last temptation he gives him, he says to him, you know what, Jesus? I'll give you all the nations and all the authority of the world. You can rule the world at all I got to do is just say the word, bow to me, and I'll give it to you. But Satan says something very interesting at the beginning of his statement, which is, all authority in this world's been given to me, and I'll give it to you. Satan is so self-deceived and so proud that he can say it, that it's been given to him, but it doesn't connect with the fact that it all came from the Father. He has to speak the truth, and yet in his heart, he believes it came from him. And he can give it to Jesus, and he can fool Jesus. Jesus says, no way, no way. And so we do the same thing, though, folks. We think the point of origin of all we've been given is us and not our Father in heaven, even down to the very breath in our lungs. It's crazy how we can fool ourselves to not see that all this is a gift. The fourth and very important ingredient, to understand that what God's giving us on that plate is himself, grace, the gut to be able to believe, and then finally, that we are coming to a gift. He's put this on a gift on the plate. It's all his gift. He hands it to us. Life is a gift from the ultimate gift giver. God's loving action in our lives, that he pursues us from the moment we are born until this day, is a gift. He could have left us to ourselves to destroy ourselves, but it's a gift that he has not done that and pursued us. Can I even say this? That our faith, our gut reaction, our ability to believe is a gift. There is actually kind of a hidden legalism inside of Ephesians 2:8-9 that we can get caught up in. And that is, for by grace you've been saved through faith. And we take our faith as if it's something that had its point of origin in me, and I put it on the plate and I say, see, God, that's what I have to offer. I have faith. And I have more faith than that person. That's why things are the way they are in my life. And that's why things are the way they are in his life. And we think that we're the point of origin. Guys, even our faith is a gift. Even our belief, our ability to believe is a gift. We're so stained by sin, there's no way on our own we would turn to God. That's how damaged we are from sin. Our faith is a gift. Look at Hebrews 12 if you want to see as the writer's talking about the journey of faith. He says, we do this. We stay on the path of faith by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Can I give you a picture of what that looks like? We come to the table. We come to the table and God offers us that dish. And we've all had this happen where we see something that we really want and we need because our stomachs are empty. And a few minutes ago, I was doing okay. But the minute you put that plate before me and I smell it and I see it, what happens? Ugh, you feel that turn. And it's really bad when the dish goes by you to the next table. I've had that happen. And it's like, oh man, that's cruel. But a few minutes ago, I was fine. You see, that's like our faith. We have nothing to offer. We have empty stomachs. God puts everything there for us. And just the sight and smell of what he's given us causes the reaction. He gifts us the ability to have that faith by putting it in front of us. And speaking of Jesus, because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame, seated now in the place of honor beside God's throne. I think what's beautiful about him being the perfecter and the initiator of our faith is that Jesus could have been born into privilege. He could have come and had it all easy. But no, you know what Jesus did? He came and he gave himself up completely. He gave himself up completely to the task of looking at the cross, looking at the pain and suffering that was coming, and it was the wrath of God that was going to come down on him, and he looked at it with joy. How in the world is that even possible? How can he do that? He can do that because of his love for us. He can do that because I want you to see that even the wrath of God, folks, is a gift. We may not see it that way, but it truly is. Jesus saw the joy that when the wrath of God would be sufficed by being poured out on him, that he would take it all for us, and he could say, it is finished from the cross. Even God's wrath is a gift because of the fact that there is a complete and utter forgiveness. There is a right for all the wrongs in the world. There is a final judge for those judgments that need to happen yet. And that all that we see and happen in our world is yet to be decided upon and dealt with by God. Even if it looks like that nothing's happening, he is the one that everyone will answer to. And so his wrath even is a gift. And Jesus saw the joy before him of being able to put that to rest and to take care of it in his sacrifice. You see, Jesus is all over this passage, all over Ephesians 2:8-9, as he is God. He is God made flesh. He comes in grace and truth. He is the one who his entire life lived in a state of physical poverty, but also chose to live in a state of spiritual poverty where he had to get with the Father every day. And even at the point that he was 12 years old and his parents lost him, he wasn't lost because he went right to the temple. And he told his parents, I had to be where my Father is, right here. And all the way to the cross where he hung on the cross, and his last words on the cross were, Father, into your spirit I commit myself. Into your hands I commit my spirit, he said. He gave himself up at the cross to the Father. He lived in a complete state of spiritual poverty, hunger to the Father always. And I just absolutely love that he is the picture of salvation. He is the gift. Even his name means our God is salvation, Yeshua. And he deserves the credit. He is our reward. He is all we need. That is our God who saves, Jesus Christ. So my question then this morning for you is, maybe you're asking, maybe you're feeling that ache in your stomach. How do I receive this gift? How am I saved? Some people came to Jesus in John chapter 6 and asked that question, what are the works that we're to do to receive what you're talking about, Jesus? And he said simply, the work of God is this. If we're talking salvation, believe in the one he has sent. It's that simple. And it seems like it shouldn't be that simple, but it is that simple. That's why that card you have for your notes is so simple. It's simple enough for a guy like me who, when I was 7 years old, could walk down this aisle and hear that message and ask Jesus into my life. And for a guy like me who I was nearly 40, and when I was in that crisis of belief and God led me by the hand through that wilderness, that I'm standing before you here today by the grace of God and able to tell you that he is good. And you simply have to look to him and believe in what he's done for you. And whatever God's doing in your life right now, he's speaking to you because he wants to snatch you from death, from the imminent threat that's in your life. I say that with all my heart. Now that man, Derrida, who is the father of this deconstruction method, near the end of his life, he gave a lecture entitled The Death Penalty Lectures. Interesting, kind of to me. And he was speaking of trying to explain deconstruction. to those listening by using death. He said the dream of deconstruction is a convulsive movement to have done to death itself. Not to put to question, again, the question, what is death, but to deconstruct death. Final period, and with the same blow, to come to blows with death and put it out of action. No less than that. Death to death. Can I just say today, no amount of philosophizing, thinking, and writing in our mental capacities is going to help us get any closer to putting death to death. None of us can avoid it. None of us. Only the giver of life can overcome death. And that's exactly what Jesus did for us on the cross. And in the grave, he came back to life and he defeated death in a way that none of us ever will and ever could. And that is why he's the perfect sacrifice. And that's why we look to him as the one that God the Father said, I will allow my son if he's willing to go, and he will go to earth, and I will deconstruct him on earth through his lifetime and on the cross. And he will be laid bare for all to see so that man can be put back together in my love. It was an act of love for God to deconstruct his own son so that we might be put back together. And that's why Jesus stands at his right. That's why he is above all. We no longer have to live in fear when we put our faith in him, our gut conviction in the one that conquered death and sin for us and graced us with freedom from that fear, freedom from despair, freedom from slavery, freedom from condemnation. We've had enough of that through this year, haven't we? Enough fear of death. We don't have to live afraid anymore. More than a century ago, we see a young lady writing from her heart in the year 1910, and she said this, dark is the stain we cannot hide. What can we do to wash it away? Sin, despair, like the sea waves cold, threaten the soul with infinite loss. Maybe that's where you've been living. Maybe that's the darkness that's described going on in your world, in your life right now. But listen to what she says as well. She says this, grace that is greater. Yes, grace untold points to the refuge, the mighty cross. Marvelous, infinite, matchless grace, freely bestowed on all who believe, you longing to see his face. Will you this moment his grace receive? This is that moment. And I sing over you, grace, grace, God's grace. Grace that will pardon and cleanse within. Grace, grace, God's grace. Grace that is greater than all our sin. That is what he's come to do for you and for me on that cross. And I want to invite you this morning at every campus, and even if you're at home in your living room, I want to invite you to get on your knees. That's what the front's here for. Or even right where you're sitting. It doesn't matter. Just get on your knees before him. We've been working towards this moment in the scripture to say, this is the moment, this is the time. And maybe you're at a place right now where you feel like, I need help with this faith thing. I need help with this believe thing. That's okay. Jesus didn't send people away that struggled with their faith. Otherwise, he would have kicked Thomas out of the group when he was doubting, right? You know, Jesus was available. He was there for those that struggled in their belief. Come and pray and ask the Lord, give me more faith, Lord. Help me with my unbelief, Lord. And there's others of you that say, you know what? I've grown cold in my faith. I need to come. I need to pray and ask God to help me because I'm broken. My life's been torn apart. It's been deconstructed, and I need you, Lord Jesus, to put me back together, not by feeding on all the stuff I've been going to. It's not working. I need you. I need what you're offering me because it's the only thing that will satisfy. So I challenge you wherever you are today, come and bow the knee, spend some time with the Lord, and invite him into your life more and more and more. Let his grace shine upon you. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for a beautiful morning. Thank you for this time that we get to continue to worship you in song. And as we look to you, Jesus, as the writer said, to keep our eyes fixed on you, Jesus, the author, the one that initiates and perfects our faith. Help us, Lord Jesus, to humble ourselves. We don't want to be boastful. We want to bow ourselves in humility before you. And we want to come to you saying, I don't have it all together. I need your grace. I have nothing to offer, and that's a great place to be. If we have nothing to offer, then your grace is greater than anything. It shines brighter when it's not mixed in with my own efforts and my own feelings of needing to justify myself. Oh God, please get to our hearts this morning, and may we bow before you in submission, in love, in obedience. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.